I often say, to give is to live, and to live is to give. Those who live to give are the ones who truly live. And their life is dependent on their giving, because without giving they cannot live. So the whole idea of living a life is to be able to give. Like when we breathe out, that's when we breathe in. Nobody can hold the breath forever, because the more you hold, the more you suffer. The more you let go, the more you are happy. When we celebrate this One World, One Family World Cultural Festival, we define culture not merely as a set of beliefs and behavioral systems, traditions and rituals, but culture is the very basis of human societies, and that finds its purpose in concern. True culture is to be concerned about each other's welfare. When we are concerned about somebody else, we are cultured. So, to me, uncultured people are those who are selfish, who are only bothered about themselves, and who care none for others. But those who care for others, even if they are not literate, even if they are not very educated or well placed, they are still more cultured than the rest. As I was hearing that the greeting in Korean language is, "Have you eaten?" If you see in India also, the first thing we meet, we greet people, we ask them, "Have you eaten?" In Kannada, "Uta aita," they'll ask. And that comes from this concern whether the other person has eaten. Because we all had difficult pasts, and there were times when 2 square meals a day were not affordable for most of the people. And I was mentioning that in Chhattisgarh, the tribals who go to collect the forest produce for their livelihood, they carry a packet of food with them in the morning because they would return late afternoon. And they, before eating, would shout, "I have food with me, I have food on me. Is there anybody who is hungry around? I have food to share." And then only when they receive no response would they start eating. That was the concern that our great civilizations had for each other, where they truly believed in giving. They did not believe in taking. And I always say, today we talk about sustainability and so on and so forth. Sustainability happens when we give more than what we take. The Isha Upanishad says, "Isha vasyamidam sarvam yat kinchat jagatyam jagata tena tyaktena bunjitaha mahagudha kasyas vidhanam." Whole world is permeated by the divine. Whatever you see moving or not moving, animate, inanimate, everything is divinity. So how do you live when knowing this truth? Tena tyaktena bunjita. Give and then consume. Sacrifice and then consume. Mahagudha kasyas vidhanam. And do not take another person's wealth. Do not steal another person's wealth. What does it truly mean is, do not take what truly does not belong to you. And what does not belong to you is what you do not need. Only what you need is what truly belongs to you. If you have more than your need, then it belongs to somebody whose need is greater than yours. That is the idea that most of the world cultures taught to humanity. But unfortunately, in today's times, the more you accumulate, the more successful you are. That is how the world looks at it. But in the olden times, it was the more you sacrifice, the more successful you were, the more respected you were, the more revered you were. Because people believed in these great values of giving and sharing. And even today, in smaller communities, tribal communities, I still see this happening. Even in earlier times, not just in tribal and rural communities, but even in learned communities, people would cook their meal and they will wait for a stranger to come. And they will share the meal, and only then they are supposed to eat. And this was a very common thing in many learned, so-called intellectual Brahmin families also. They had to wait for somebody to share the meal. And unless they shared the meal, they cannot eat, because they believed that whoever comes that day would be representative of God. So they waited for God to come and share a meal with them, and that is when they would eat. Otherwise, they wouldn't eat. So also in our culture, we would feed the animals, birds, before we start eating. And I want to share a beautiful story from my own childhood. My grandmother's mother, who was then maybe 90s, 95, 96, she was very, very particular that every day before she ate her meal, she has to keep a portion aside, a morsel of food, and then she would ask someone, the children in the house, to take it in a small leaf and place it on the terrace for the birds to eat. I would ask her, why would you keep this for the birds up there? She would say, the crows will come and eat. And crows are our ancestors, she would say. And I used to feel very bad that crows were our ancestors. And I would say, why would crows be our ancestors? She would say, you don't understand, but people, when they want to come and visit us, they take the form of a crow and they would come and eat the meal. So I would nevertheless, without questioning, would go and place that little morsel of food up there. But unless she had placed that morsel up there, she wouldn't start eating. Even if you tell her to eat, she won't. So we would take that and put it up there. Many years later, she passed on as the age progressed. On that morning, even before we could tell the relatives and others that she had passed away, there were crows and crows and crows on the terrace. So many crows. They were all on the terrace, everywhere. That day she did not place a meal. She didn't tell the crows that she is no more. None of us told anybody. But on her day of death, the terrace was full of crows. They had come to offer their gratitude, or as she said, they are my ancestors, my relatives who have come to visit me. So once she became one with her ancestors, they were there to receive her. And I saw that, and this was gratitude, is pure gratitude. Why would so many crows, generally there will be 2 or 3 of them who would come. Maybe only one at times. But that day the whole terrace was full of crows who had come to see her off. This is the gratitude that even animals have for those who share with them. Unfortunately, in human beings only this quality of gratitude is declining fast. And the sense of entitlement is plaguing the entire society, where we think we deserve everything just because we are born this way. But there are millions who cannot afford things. They also deserve the same things. They are also children of the same God. They are also members of the same family. But unfortunately, they are less privileged. And that is when these great ideas of great cultures come to our rescue by teaching us that our only way of living in this life is by giving. There is no other way to live than to give. And that is why I always remember when Swami Vivekananda says, they alone live who live for others. The rest are more dead than alive. When we live for others, we truly live. So I was reminded of that when I was hearing the talk, that how giving is the fundamental principle. Everybody gives. Paropakarartham vahanti nadya, paropakarartham duhanti gavaha, paropakarartham phalanti vrikshaha, paropakarartham idam shariram, it says. For the sake of others, trees give fruits, rivers give water, cows give milk, and for the sake of others, this body has been given. As long as we remember this, the world will continue to grow into a beautiful family. And when we forget that, that's when all the divisions happen. To the foundation give, who have supported the Annapurna program, who bring food, nutrition and love to the children who are hungry. We are very grateful. Also to the company Aerospace, who had shared that vision that while they make many people take to flight, they are also helping children realize their dreams. And that is again a beautiful contribution in some way or the other. 10 or 12 years ago, there was no CSR. It started in 2013. It started small. I did meet the IS officer who was then probably the principal secretary or somebody who mooted the CSR bill in the cabinet. And one Mr. Banerjee, he was here. He told that he was not sure whether such a thing would ever succeed in a country like India, which is so diverse, still developing. People are still shy of giving away what they have, as it was mentioned, that India does not give as much as other countries do. But when he proposed this bill, in fact, he had gone even to Harvard and he met somebody, very senior marketing or management guru, who I think still lives. And he told him that such a bill will never get passed in India. It would never get passed even in the US, he said. That where companies have to set some amount aside, 2% of their profits, to be given away for charity and social causes. He said even in the US, such a bill wouldn't pass, forget about India. But nevertheless, this Mr. Banerjee came back with conviction that this we have to do. And he presented the bill. It was passed by both the opposition as well as the ruling party. And then it became a law. I appreciated, I said that is very good that something like this was done, because that reminded people of their responsibility to give. And companies have to give because that is a part of the law. But beyond the law, there is love. And we must give because we love, not just because the law tells us to do that. And that is where I think India, being a great ancient land which is known for giving, Yajna Dana Tapak Karma Natyajyam Karyameva Tat, Krishna says, these three things you should never give up. Yajna, sacrifices; Dana, charity; and Tapaha, austerities. These we should not forget. We are Indians and we are bound to follow these things. Why? Because Yajna Dana Tapaschaiva Pavanani Manishinam. Because it purifies us more than helping others. It helps us to become better people, better human beings. When we sacrifice for others, when we do charity, and when we perform austerities, restraint, that is when we start making a difference to ourselves more than the world around us. And these are the values that we want to teach our children, teach our people. That when you think of yourself, think of two others. If you have eaten, think of those who have not eaten today. If you are educated, worry about somebody who is not able to get education. If you are healthy, be concerned about somebody who is not able to access health care. If you have a roof over your head, make it your mission to ensure that somebody else also is sheltered. If you are clothed and you are warm, it is your responsibility to see to that somebody else out there also is warm and also clothed. All the privileges that we have in our lives are simply reminders for us to share those privileges with those who do not have. That is why God gives more to those, because He believes that these people will be able to share with others. And giving is such a core philosophy in all the cultures, whether it is religious or otherwise. Daswant is called in our Sikhism, where 1/10 is to be given away. In other places also, in Islam it's called zakat, where you must give a portion of, in fact, quarter of their earnings they have to give away. So also in Hinduism, dana is there. And there is no upper limit. You give as much as you can. As I said, what you don't need truly does not belong to you. It belongs to somebody else whose need is greater. That is how Hinduism defines this. So also there is the tenthing, which we call in most of the other, in Judaism and places like that. 1/10 of the earnings, and they want to keep aside. It means almost a month of the year that you are, or month and a half, you are working only for the sake of others. You don't take anything out of it. Because 1/10 of your earnings is going for the sake of others, which roughly amounts to 1.5 months or so. And that is the time when people also used to undertake pilgrimages. 40 days was a very done thing. In all religions, 40 days of ritualistic worship was given. Be it the month of Sabbath, or we do all these 40 days of even Ayyappa worship we do. These were the ways, Ramadan we celebrate. These were the ways people were reminded that 40 days of the year, worth your efforts, your earnings, your time, your energy must be kept aside for God. And 40 days is approximately 1/10 of your year. That is what you must keep aside for the sake of society. When I tell people they should give, they think of the minimum that they can give just to be known as givers. No, that is not how it is. We must think, what is the maximum I can give? After my needs are met, my family's needs are met, and whatever little savings I must have, there is no need for worrying more than that. And if just the whole world starts thinking that we must keep aside 1/10 of whatever we earn for the sake of others, we can solve all the problems of the world. All the problems of the world will be solved. With or without governments also, we will be able to sort it out. But it is just the idea that even to give 1/10 of one's earning feels so difficult. In a group, I was asking once, if you have 100 rupees and I ask you that you have to give away 1 rupee, would you give away? Of course I will give away, he said. 1 rupee is nothing. Okay, if you had 1,000 rupees and I'll ask you to give away 10 rupees, would you give away? He said, of course I'll give away 10 rupees. Okay, if you have 1 lakh rupees and I ask you to give away 1,000 rupees, will you give away? Yes, I will give away, he said. If you had 10 lakh rupees and I ask you to give away, or if you have 1 crore rupees and I ask you to give away 1 lakh rupees, will you give away? He said, probably I'll give away. Then I said, if you have 100 crore rupees and I tell you to give away 1 crore, will you give away? He said, I might not give away. It's not about the percentage that I was asking, it's the value to the money that they think of. And they're not thinking that I'm giving only 1% of what I have, but they're thinking I'm giving away 1 crore rupees. But you still have 99 crores with you, isn't it? That you don't see. When it comes to 1 rupee means nothing to them, so give it away to a beggar. But the proportion is the same. So I tell all the givers, don't look at the value that you're giving away, look at the proportion that you're giving away. Look at the portion of your wealth that you're giving away, because 99% is still with you. And if you are, God bless you, and if you're a billionaire, what should you give? Again, the discipline of giving should be maintained, that is the percentage. And the scriptural injunction in most of the places is 1/10. And that sounds a lot to somebody who is just starting a career, but that's for them to share other things like their time, energy and skills. They may not have the wealth. So I have a thumb rule which I keep telling. Give as much as is your age. Let's imagine that you have 100 years lifespan. And if you are 25 years old, then give 25% of whatever you have. If you are 50 years old, give 50% of whatever you have. If you are 75 years old, give 75% of whatever you have. And if you are 100 years old, naturally you don't need anything for yourself. Everything belongs to the society. And that is how one should develop a discipline in giving. And that will help them to move from the brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha to sannyas ashrama. If you hold on to too much, you will never be able to transition into from grahastha to the vanaprastha, because you will always worry, I have to manage all this wealth that I have. And that will never allow you to step into the next ashrama. You will never grow spiritually. And that is the idea. Once it seems Krishna and Arjuna were going, and then Krishna saw that one beggar was there who was asking for alms, and he told Arjuna, Arjuna saw, and Arjuna told Krishna, oh, that's such a poor beggar, let us help him. So he gave him a ring, and his gold ring, and said, take this, and you can make something out of it. And this man became very happy. He had, not the first time was not the gold. The first time he got a pouch of coins. He gave the coins and said, take this and sell it or use it and be rich and don't beg tomorrow. So the poor Brahmin was very happy. As he was going, he got robbed by a thief on the way. And so he lost all the money. So when he went home, he was a poor Brahmin again. So next day he was again begging. Again Krishna and Arjuna were going that way. And Krishna saw and said, what is going on? Yesterday this man was there, today again he is there. So Arjuna said, yesterday I gave him money, still he is begging today. Why are you begging? He said, that money was lost, the thief stole it away. So then Arjuna, feeling pity, removed a ring and from his finger and gave it to the Brahmin and said, now take this and sell it and make money and then don't beg again. So as he was going back, he went home, he kept this ring carefully in a pot. Earlier in the old household, you'll see there will be a shelf on which we will keep unused pots, earthen pots. So he put in one of these unused pots and thought next morning he'll wake up, he will go to the jeweler's shop and sell this ring and get the money. But next morning, before he woke up, his wife was going to the river to fetch water. So she was going with her pot, but then it broke on the way. So she came back and picked up this pot in which he had kept the ring and went to the river to fetch water. And when he woke up, he looked for the pot and it wasn't there. He asked his wife what happened. She said, my old pot broke, so I took this new pot and fetched water in it. He looked for a ring, but there was no ring in it. He said, what a fate. And again he was begging the next day. So Krishna and Arjuna again were walking and they saw the man was back begging on the street. So then Arjuna said, I helped him with money, I helped him with a ring, still he is begging. Then Krishna says, wait, now I will help. So far you were helping, now I will help. So he gave him a penny and said, that's all I have, take this. But that meant nothing, that value was not much. Nevertheless, this Brahmin, when he was going back, he was crossing the river, he saw that a fisherman had caught a fish and the fish was struggling for life. Being a Brahmin, his heart melted. He said, let me set the fish free. He asked the person, how much is this fish? He said, a penny. So he gave him that penny and told, leave the fish back in the water. Just as he was leaving the fish back in water, it spat the ring that it had swallowed the previous day. So now this Brahmin got the ring back and he shouted, I found it, I found. The moment he shouted, I found it, the thief was hiding behind a tree. He thought the Brahmin has found him. And he came out and confessed, saying that I stole your money, please don't tell the police. Take your money. And the Brahmin got back his money as well. So when he went home, he had the money that he had lost, he got the ring also back, and next day he was not begging. So when he was not begging, next day Krishna and Arjuna were curious that, oh, finally, Arjuna was extra curious because I gave him so much money and still he came back begging. Krishna gave him just a penny and he's not here for begging. So they went searching for him and found him that he was living a comfortable life. Then when they asked, they said this. Krishna said, see, when you give only, you receive. Earlier when money was so plenty, the ring was valuable, so much money was there, Brahmin thought only about himself. But this time when money was little and there was a fish struggling, the Brahmin thought about the fish. And he thought, what will I do with the penny any which ways? Let me save the fish. The moment his heart melted in compassion and he gave, he received everything that he had lost. Many times in our life, we all insist we must receive first, only then we will give. And that's why we never receive. But the law of universe works the other way around. You give first and then you will receive. A man was asking once in one of the satsang, please give me a lot of money so that I can do a lot of seva. And Bhagavan said, you first do a lot of seva, then I'll give you a lot of money. Because once money comes, you never know whether you will do seva or not. But once you start doing seva, you will start getting money. When we started here, we had nothing, I was telling. When we started, the monthly budget of this entire institution was 5 lakh rupees. Just for the salaries and things like that. Just 5 lakh rupees monthly budget. And today, if I put Sanjeevani Hospitals, our Prashanti Bal Mandira Trust, Annapurna Trust put together, just the operational cost for the year is close to 400 crores. Just the operational cost. This is not buildings. This is just running the program. 400 crores, it means almost 1 point some crores per day. And if I add buildings like these which are getting built, add another 500 crores to that. Probably 900 crores a year. That is equivalent to 3 crores per day. So between your breakfast and lunch, 1 crore. Lunch and dinner, 1 crore. Dinner to next breakfast, 1 crore. That is the rate at which the institution is growing and spending. Imagine 5 lakh rupees a month to 3 crores a day. How did this institution grow so much? Because every time we gave. Whenever people came with problems, they came with sufferings they need, we did not think whether we have enough so that we can give after calculating. We just gave with our heart. And then Bhagavan took care of the rest. That is how we have grown. The other day I was talking to the management students. I said, fortunately, I learned all other management concepts. I did not learn capital budgeting and cash flow management in my MBA days. I used to hate that subject. So when they were teaching capital budgeting and the formulae, I would not pay attention. Probably for a reason, because if I had learned capital budgeting and cash flow, we wouldn't have grown in this charity so big. All the time we'll be calculating our budgets and worrying, oh, this is crossing the budget, we cannot do more than this. We would have never grown. We would have never grown. And that is how we have grown, because we always gave and received later. Why we gave? Because there was a need on the other side. The people were hungry and sick and uneducated. They had to be given what they needed at that point in time. And when we were inspired to give, like the Brahmin who had only a penny but he wanted to give it away. Like that, when we are inspired to give, the universe conspires to give us back. And what it does is magical. And I have seen that magic happen here. I know it's a struggle, it's hard work, but where is no struggle? Even a corporate which wants to become a big corporate struggles. Struggles to receive its businesses, struggles to receive this revenue, it struggles. Everybody struggles. We are struggling for a better cause. We are struggling to give, not to receive. Receiving is automatically. When we breathe out, we naturally breathe in effortlessly. So we give so that we receive, and that what we receive is given back again. So this is how the universe works, not the economics. Economics works only when you receive, you give. Universe works the other way around. You give, so you receive. And that is how one should think. We should be fearless when it comes to doing good. Not be afraid what will happen to me and my people and my family. Yes, your duties you fulfill. I'm not saying you should starve yourself to save somebody. No. What is needed, to that extent you must have it. But beyond that, it belongs to somebody whose need is greater than yours. This principle should be in the minds of all the people. Then only this world will become a better place. The beautiful family that we think of, that is what it would be. Otherwise it won't. So think like this and work like this, because I have seen our institutions grow and thrive. So many thousands, millions maybe, have been saved and served. With nothing in our hand we started, but one feeling that we are here to give, not to receive. And every time we gave, we have only received more than that. And this is how we've been growing. Be fearless on this path, and give to live is what I thought I should convey to you. The day you cannot give, the day is that day you have not really lived in your purpose. Think like that and be selfless.